Hey everyone, it is time for another episode of The Place Book Club. As you all know, May's pick was The Flower Sisters, and I actually have the author with me today, Miss Michelle Collins Anderson. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for having me, Alyssa. This is wonderful.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining me. So this book was so good. You grew up in the Ozarks. What inspired you to write a book based off of the dance hall explosion in West Plains?
Well, Alyssa, I hadn't heard about this story until about a dozen years ago. I got a nonfiction book by the author Lynn Waterhouse, who is local in West Plains, and she wrote this nonfiction account. My dad sent me the book when I lived in Kansas City, and I read it with astonishment because I had never heard of this event that happened in 1928. So when I read about this, I just knew I had to write a novel about it and fictionalize it.
How did you use trauma to shape the characters in your book?
Well, that's a great question because I think trauma is obviously at the heart of a devastating event like this. In West Plains, which was 3,000 people at the time of the explosion, and so with 39 people being killed and 22 injured, it touched so many lives and shaped their lives going forward. And in my book, I thought it would be interesting to explore that feeling of what happens when a split-second decision ripples out and changes everything for generations, not just personally for a lot of these characters, but for the community as a whole. But the rest of it is letting the characters tell their own story, and that just became increasingly important to me as I went on. When I first began the book, I was very fixated on my teenage character of Daisy, who's young, the young intern who uncovers the scoop, and her grandma Rose, who is the female mortician in the town. But as I began writing their stories, lots of other characters started raising their hands and wanted to tell their story too, and I just had to listen and let them speak.
Yeah, so what inspired Daisy's character?
Well, funny you should ask that. She ends up getting an internship at the local paper there in the town that I have renamed Possum Flats, Missouri.
Yes, I love it. It's the most like country, it's amazing.
Yes, well, she says it sounds like roadkill and it's every bit as dead. That's her 15-year-old perspective. But anyway, to escape that boredom, she gets an internship at the newspaper and she uncovers this story that happened 50 years prior, the dance hall explosion, and she really wants to explore it. Well, I myself was an intern at the West Plains Daily Quill back in the day. When I was in journalism school, it was one of my summer jobs. And I did a lot of the things that Daisy learned to do in the book. Write obituaries, take pictures of strange or deformed vegetables, prize heifers at the county fair, you name it. That was the job of the intern, and I definitely channeled those experiences into Daisy's character.
The grunt work,
The
right?
grunt,
Yes.
the glamorous work.
The glamorous grunt work. We've all been there, especially in media. We all wrote an obituary at least once.
Yes, I mean, it is the best way to learn the inverted pyramid, right?
Yeah, exactly what you say. We do learn a lot about being a mortician.
Yes, that was an area where I did not have expertise, and I had to really study up on that. I even visited a funeral home museum in St. Joseph, Missouri to learn some of the older techniques and equipment of the time. And then I just did a lot of reading. I really wanted Rose's occupation and her experience as a mortician to feel authentic. So it was a gory and gruesome at times, but I persevered.
What made you want to have that be Rose's career or job?
That's a wonderful question, because when I read about the dance hall explosion originally, one of the people who died that night was a female mortician, a funeral home owner. And I looked at that and I just thought, that is a wonderful character to have at that time, a female-owned business in the late 1920s. It was just too good to let it go. And then, interestingly, I was talking with a high school friend about this, my friend Ann. Her name is Ann Kinsella now. And I was telling her about my book, and she said, my great-grandmother died in that explosion.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I'm sorry, I did not know. Tell me more. Turns out she was the female funeral home director.
Wow.
So again, it's a story that has touched so many lives and shaped them, and it's fascinating as I've been touring around getting other little tidbits and information from people who knew of people that were touched that way.
It all came full circle.
Definitely.
And you're going to be here in Springfield again in September.
Yes, I'll be at the Library Center on September 10th, and I'm really looking forward to coming back.
Well, we are excited to have you. So if you have not read this book, what are you doing? Pick it up. You can pick it up at what? Barnes & Noble, Amazon, any
Yes.
place you can buy your books.
Absolutely. Or your independent bookstore.
That was May's book pick, and now we're going to talk about June's book pick, which you actually read. It's called Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. I probably butchered that last name pretty badly, but I have heard so many good things about this book. Have you?
Yes, I enjoyed the book. I thought it was interesting because it too has several characters that have their own voice, and the author made some interesting decisions as to who gets to tell the story and who doesn't.
Yeah, I am excited to actually read this. There's a lot to unpack in this book. And so it's said to be an emotionally layered and engrossing story of a family that asks, can love make a broken person whole? That is the question. That is very interesting. So if you would like to follow along with us, follow along with me on social media, Alyssa Kelly TV. For now, happy reading. And Michelle, thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.